Discover the Divine from the book Supreme Discovery by our Divine Mother. Topic: the discipline to be followed. Our Divine Mother says, the first necessity is the practice of concentration of your consciousness within yourself. The ordinary human mind has an activity on the surface which wields the real self, but there is another, a hidden consciousness within, behind the surface one, in which we can become aware of the real self, of a larger, deeper truth of nature, can realize the self and liberate and transform the nature. To quiet the surface mind and begin to live within is the object of this concentration. Of this true consciousness, other than the superficial, there are two main centers, one in the heart, not in the physical heart, but the cardiac center in the middle of the chest, one in the head. The concentration in the heart opens within, and by following this inward opening and going deep, one becomes aware of the soul or the psychic being, the divine element in the individual. This being, unveiled, begins to come forward to govern the nature, to turn it and all its movements towards the truth, towards the divine, and to call down into it all that is above. It brings the consciousness of the presence, the divine presence, the dedication of the being to the highest, and invites the descent into our nature of a greater force and consciousness which is waiting above us. To concentrate in the heart center with the offering of oneself to the divine and the aspiration for this inward opening and for the presence in the heart is the first way, and if it can be done, the natural beginning, for its result once obtained makes the spiritual path far more easy and safe than if one begins the other way. The other way is the concentration in the head, in the mental center. This, if it brings about the silence of the surface mind, opens up an inner, larger, deeper mind within which is more capable of receiving spiritual experience and spiritual knowledge. But once concentrated here, one must open the silent mental consciousness upward to all that is above mind. After a time, one feels the consciousness rising upward, and in the end it rises beyond the lid which has so long kept it tied in the body, and finds a center above the head where it is liberated into the infinite. There it begins to come into contact with the universal self, the divine peace, light, power, knowledge, bliss, to enter into that and become that, to feel the descent of these things into the nature, to concentrate in the head with the aspiration for quietude in the mind and realization of the self and the divine above is the second way of concentration. It is important, however, to remember that the concentration of the consciousness in the head is only a preparation for its rising to the center above. Otherwise, one may get shut up in one's own mind and its experiences, or at best attain only to a reflection of the truth above, instead of rising into the spiritual transcendence to live there. For some, the mental concentration is easier. For some, the concentration in the heart center. Some are capable of doing both alternately, but to begin with, the heart center, if one can do it, is the most desirable. The other side of discipline is with regards to the activities of the nature, of the mind, of the life, self or vital, of the physical being. Here, the principle is to accord the nature with the inner realization so that one may not be divided into two discord paths. There are here several disciplines or processes possible. One is to offer all the activities to the divine and call for the inner guidance and the taking up of one's nature by a higher power. If there is the inward soul opening, if the psychic being comes forward, then there is no great difficulty. There comes with it a psychic discrimination, a constant intimation, finally, a governance which discloses and quietly and patiently removes all imperfections, brings the right mental and vital moments, and reshapes the physical consciousness also. Another method is to stand back, detached from the movements of the mind, life, physical being, to regard their activities as a habitual formation of general nature in the individual, imposed on us by past workings, not as any part of our real being. And in proportion as one succeeds in this, becomes detached, sees mind and its activities as not oneself, life and its activities as not oneself, the body and its activities are not oneself. One becomes aware of an inner being within us, inner mental, inner vital, inner physical, silent, calm, unbound, unattached, which reflects the true self above and can be its direct representative. From this inner silent being proceeds a rejection of all that is to be rejected, and acceptance only of what can be kept and transformed, an inmost will to perfection, or a call to the divine power to do at each step what is necessary for the change of the nature. It can also open mind, life and body to the inmost psychic entity and its guiding influence or its direct guidance. In most cases, two methods emerge and work together and finally fuse into one. But one can begin with either, the one that one feels most natural and easy to follow, says our Divine Mother. Next subtopic, how to know your soul's intimations. Our Divine Mother says, how many times we have repeated this? All that comes from the mind is wholly relative. The more the mind is educated, has applied itself to various disciplines, the more it becomes capable of proving that what it puts forward or what it says is true. One can prove the truth of anything by reasoning, but that does not make it true. It opens an opinion, a prejudice, a knowledge based on appearance, which are themselves more dubious. So, there seems to be only one way out, and that is to go in search of one's soul and to find it. It is there. It does not make a point of hiding itself. It does not play with you just to make things difficult. On the contrary, it makes great efforts to help you and find it, to make itself heard. Only between your soul and your active consciousness, there are two characters who are in the habit of making a lot of noise. That's the mind and the vital. And because they make a lot of noise while the soul does not, rather makes as little as possible, their noises prevent you from hearing the voice of the soul. When you want to know what your soul knows, you have to make an inner effort to be very attentive. And indeed, if you are attentive, behind the outer noise of the mind and vital, you can discern something very subtle, very quiet, very peaceful, which knows and says what it knows, but the insistence of the others is so impervious, while that is so quiet that you are very easily misled into listening to the one that makes the most noise. Most often, you become aware only afterwards that the other one was right. It does not impose itself. It does not compel you to listen, for it is without violence. When you hesitate, when you wonder what to do in this or that circumstance, there comes the desire, the preference, both mental and vital, that press, insist, affirm and impose themselves, and with the best reasons in the world, build a whole case for themselves. And if you're not on the alert, if you don't have a firm discipline, if you don't have the habit of control, they finally convince you that you are right, that they are right, And as I was saying a little while ago, they make so much noise that you don't even hear the tiny voice or the tiny, very quiet indication of the soul which says, don't do it. This, don't do it. It comes often, but you discard it as something which has no power. Follow your impulsive destiny. If you are truly sincere in your will to find and live the truth, then you learn to listen better and better. You learn to discriminate more and more, and even if it costs you an effort, even if it causes you pain, you learn to obey. And even if you are obeyed only once, it is a powerful help, a considerable progress on the path towards the discrimination between what is and what is not the soul. With this discrimination and the necessary sincerity, you are sure to reach the goal. But you must not be in a hurry. You must not be impatient. You must be very persevering. You do the wrong thing 10 times for every time that you do the right thing. But when you do the wrong thing, you must not give up everything in despair. But tell yourself that the grace will never abandon you and that next time it will be better. So in conclusion, we say that in order to know things as they are, you must first unite with your soul, and to unite with your soul, you must want it with persistence and perseverance, says our Divine Mother.